Welcome to the Drivable Podcast, where we discuss all things about driving and safer community transport for people with disabilities and medical conditions. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you go back and listen to episode 6 and 7. In episode 6, we met Nev. Nev was an awesome guy. We basically learned about his drive to raise money to help fight the fight against MS. And it was a great episode live from the side of the Swimathon with Brad. And then in episode 7, we dug deep and we reflected and had some great, discussion about when's the right time to make the decisions of, moving forward in terms of having a progressive disease and, when to start using, if you'd like, devices and things like that. So it was a great discussion and, go out and check it out.
Yeah, I really love that episode. G'day, Ali. Today we're doing episode 8. We've got another interview today. Today we are going to interview Eli Murn, who's our special guest. He's got a very interesting story about how his driving changed quite significantly. He had a motor vehicle accident, but we'll let him introduce that on the other side of this break. It's a wonderful story, and what he's using it now to do is to motivate others. So I can't wait to meet him. Ali, you ready to go?
Yep, super ready.
Let's do this. Driving is something many take for granted, but when someone has an altered ability, then driving or getting out and about in your own car can be challenging. The Drive Able podcast unpacks the world of driving with a disability so you can experience the freedom that you desire. I'm Brad, and with me is Ali, and together we have over 30 years of experience in driving and disability. Enough with the intros, let's get into it. Okay, in this episode, we are talking to Eli. And Eli, it's not just you. We've also got your partner, Alison, as well. And thank you very much for both of you joining us. Eli, do you want to start off by introducing yourself and also telling us a little bit about your disability?
My name's Eli, obviously. I had a car crash in 2004. I suffered an acquired brain injury, and I'll go through a whole lot. I was in Flinders in ICU for 2 weeks, high care for 2 months, and I was then sent to Hampstead Rehabilitation Centre, where I stayed for 9 months. And when I left Hampstead, I had 11 months of formal home-based rehab with Birch, brain injury rehab community housing. Mm-hmm. That was with my parents. I had to go home to live with my parents. The things I now struggle with will go on for the rest of my life, and I'll just work around that and do the best I can with what I've got.
Let's talk about your life before the car accident. You had a bit of a trajectory. You had a bit of a life plan, yeah?
Yeah. I was right from very young. I was always a really active, coordinated, competitive, now smart-ass little kid. And growing up, as I got taller, I focused on basketball mainly. But I soon found out that about 13, 14, I really enjoyed volleyball. I was really good at it.
Yep.
At 15, I was playing in volleyball SA reserves, which is sort of like playing SA footy at 15, but volleyball. I went through a lot of. I was selected to go through a lot of training programs with the South Australian Sports Institute, Centre of Excellence, things like that. I represented our state in the national championship in Melbourne, in which we won. Beating Victoria in the final.
Always enjoy beating Victoria.
Yeah. It's anytime I get the chance, I'll bring that up. Also, I've got to relive my glory days. And from that championship, I was selected by some national selectors, and I went to initially Brisbane for a training camp with VTAM. It's the volleyball team in Australia men's under 21 squad, and I understood that squad were all from around Australia. In fact, I went there and sort of. A couple of Victorians had beef with me because I beat them in the final, but yeah, that. and yeah, I got through that one. I went to the
AIS.
AIS, the Australians for Sport in Canberra, and went for another week or so training.
Yep.
It was selections for the squad they were sending to the, I think, Taiwan Championship. They have but it was fun to 21s, and I was 17, and I was really disappointed that I didn't get in, because up until that stage of my life, I got into everything I tried out for, and I didn't understand that being 3 years younger than everyone else, well, the majority of the people, wasn't really working in my favour. I was a bit dark that I didn't make it, but you get that. Yeah, I look back on it and I really should have just come home, worked hard, and improved myself for the next couple of years, whatever. I guess that's where my story begins.
Righto. So I feel like, yeah, something's happened then. Yeah. So you were angry, pissed off, and what happened? What happened next?
Oh, I just thought, stuff it. I've been working this hard for so long. And the system let me down.
Yeah.
So I had some spite. It was nobody's fault. Like, I look at it now, I think I had nothing to complain about. Like, I was 17, being treated like an adult, flying around Australia, playing volleyball. Like, I should have been loving it. I came back and I sort of really kind of lost my way for a little while. I got glandular fever just before the tryouts for the state team the next year. And I therefore had just decided, look, I'm not even going to try out for the state team. I'm over it, I'm done. I was working full time at that stage. So I didn't have the energy around life to sort of support my training all the time, things like that. And I decided not to go to the training camp to tryouts for the under 19 state team. To the point where the head coach rang me at my parents' house one night to basically tell me off, to talk me into coming out to the tryouts, because he'd spent years training me and whatever. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to see all his hard work go to waste. I understood that, and I rocked up for like I think it was the last selection they were having. So all these other guys have been training for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I sort of rocked up in the last go and walked in. And then then when I got glandular fever, so I had to bail anyway. And through having glandular fever, I started working full time, like I said. I lost that job, which also pissed me off, because I was employed by the president of my volleyball club.
Yeah.
And his electronics warehouse, repair shop, whatever. And he fired me in 6 months. So I was dark. I was dark with Australian volleyball. I was dark with my club president. I was just in a bad place.
And did that impact on your life in general? And did that then impact on the way that you were driving?
Absolutely. It impacted on my life in the fact that, I started just not caring about much at all. Just I forgot to care about my family. So they would have had a pretty hard time over the next couple of years. And I guess from the age of 17, 18, I was working in different places, never anything good, like never anything a promising career style. Just factory work and tree lopping and asbestos removal and stuff like that. just getting paid danger money. And throughout that, I'm not saying that those avenues of career don't have good people. The people I discovered were the same kind of people as me. Just pretty loose units. And I sort of just jumped right into that lifestyle. Drinking, driving fast, everything that was about cars and 8-ball and just stupid stuff, basically a whole waste of time.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
That was from 17 until I crashed at 24.
Yeah, okay.
So
it was a 7-year bender.
Yeah, so I was right in the the prime age group for road trauma.
Thinking you're absolutely invincible.
Yeah.
And also, I guess being at that 17 sort of really impressionable age, and then having, I guess it must also be quite difficult dealing with loss and trauma and things like that, in terms of losing the volleyball.
Yeah.
And not knowing how to process it,
Definitely.
Then going off the rails.
Yeah. Well, like none of my friends were elite athletes like myself. I wanted to live 2 lives, and when it came to the crunch, it's too hard. So which one is going to be the one that falls away? Well, it's got to be the one you have to work hard at. It's going to be the one you have to strive for, be determined. And the one I fell into is the easiest one to continue, which was drinking and partying and wasting my time.
So tell us about the accident then. So were you in a bad spot when the accident happened?
Yeah, big time. I might just. I don't call it an accident.
Yeah.
It was a crash. I made the choice. I knew the possible consequences, not quite as bad, but I knew that it wasn't a good idea. I still chose to take risks. So I have to own it. I stuffed up. I made a mistake. I crashed a car. People don't like saying that. You hear on the news and in conversations and things like, it was an accident. Sort of taking blame away from the driver or the cause of the crash. I can't do that because I've got no one to blame but myself. I did it. I feel guilty every day still because I put my family through so much trauma, and I don't know, I've cost the community so much, and I could go on for a while about all the areas that I feel indebted to. Sorry, I forgot the question.
You want to tell the story of the night of the crash?
All right. As I said, I was living a lifestyle, a lot of driving fast, taking risks on the road. I had been at the same time a pretty keen and able motorcyclist. I spent every weekend with a group of guys on motorbikes tearing up South Australia. I've ridden to Phillip Island on the Greatest Road both ways. It was one of the best things I've ever done, for all the wrong reasons. Every time I entered the road with sharing it with all our other citizens, I took risks just for the fun of it. Simple things, breaking too late at traffic lights, things like that. Up until the point where I was driving up until the point where I was in a relationship with a certain person, all my partners before that had sort of tried to understandably really worried and sort of trying to talk me out of taking risks on the road, like, oh, calm down, chill out. The lady I was with actually really enjoyed it. So I was showing off, trying to, I guess, impress her. You know, I'm not going to blame her at all. I don't blame anyone for any of my chosen risks except for myself. I chose to try and impress her by driving fast. I don't think crashing into 2 trees was very impressive.
No, I dear look, it's blowing me away in regards to how you're taking ownership of it, and I think I'm going to reflect on that, and yeah, that's a really an interesting stance that you take on it, and I applaud you for it. I think it's really, really good that you are taking ownership of your your behavior at that time. So you left the road and crashed into 2 trees, yeah?
Yeah.
So could we then explore your back to driving journey? Because that's what this podcast is about, for people that are in this area. Maybe they're trying to explore how they might get back to driving after an accident or a crash, and maybe they're in a hospital right now and they're on their rehab journey with a brain injury.
Yes.
How did you go about getting your license back?
I remember when I was at Hampstead Rehabilitation Centre, I started talking about it, and at that stage, I really wasn't in a headspace to picture myself back in real life. You know, I hadn't really gained a perspective on what I'd done, who I was, who I'd become, and etc. So right from the beginning, I didn't even know whether I was ever going to get my license back. I didn't even know that I'd lost it, to be honest. And they went through testing off-road, like in the highways, just things like that, just to suss out my feet. And they showed me, I went through periods of, they'd show me slides, and I have to talk through them, what situation of traffic this was and things like that, what a person would do and what this meant and what that meant. And it was, it was almost like retraining.
Did you have to learn that? Did you have to relearn all of that stuff, Eli?
Yeah. Well,
was it that you had
I
forgotten
can remember
it?
some of it.
So you'd forgotten it? And had you forgotten it because of
yeah, I guess so. Initially, I didn't even remember who I was, who my parents were. I didn't know who were the nurses and stuff. I was really upset and angry for a while. I guess every time my mum came and visited, which was every night, she was a legend. That's one thing I feel really guilty about. Like a woman with a 24-year-old son doesn't want to have to be driving to Hampstead to see them every night. Like, it's just not something that you want to be doing. But every time, it was interesting. Every little bit of information I was given sort of opened up floodgates, and then this bit of memory would come back, and then then that happened, and then this happened. It was sort of like I got to relive my life again.
Yeah.
You know? But the specifics of road rules and things like that, yeah, I did need quite a bit of time to reestablish all that.
What about the physical abilities as well? Like what about the physical abilities? Did you have, like, what was?
Yeah, that was part of the off-road testing. Is like they had artificial pedals and things like that, and they sussed out that my right foot wouldn't be coordinated enough, or I call listen to my brain well enough to control pedals. So they knew before I even stepped in a car that I have to have a left accelerator.
So the left side of your body works better than your right side?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And so the right pedal for the brake and the accelerator, there was no good. So you drive with what modifications in your car now?
I have to drive an automatic.
Yep.
So with an automatic, it's got one brake in the middle.
Yep.
So that stays there. And I've just got fold down and fold up accelerator.
Where the clutch would be. Yeah?
Yeah.
Where the clutch would be in a normal manual car.
For a manual car.
And what about steering, Eli? How do you go about your steering?
It's just on my license. I have to drive a car with power steering.
Power steering? You don't need a spinner knob at all or anything else like that to help out with steering?
No.
Yep.
That's pretty good. Power steering is pretty easy to come by these days. So that's
Yeah.
good. So do you guys share the car, and that's why you got the flip up accelerator?
Yeah, we're a one car family. And
Sometimes I share it with him.
Sometimes he's allowed to drive it. Is that right, Alison?
Yeah.
That's right. Hey,
how did you go about kind of finding out that you needed that product? You said some people were sort of telling you, I mean, in 04, so this is pre-NDIS, so this is like, so there wouldn't have been that much around at those times either, right? So how did you go about kind of, was there OTs and the whole infrastructure, was that all the same? Like what were you doing?
Heaps of stuff. To be honest, my auntie, who goes now by my favourite auntie, was a fully qualified OT. She worked for ECH. So she actually entered a semi-retirement at the time, and spent pretty much every day. She'd drive out to Hampstead and take me for extra exercise, things like that, take me for extra walks. She used to wheel me in my wheelchair, holding my walking frame down to the mobility garden, and we'd walk around that for months and months and months.
Sounds like you got a pretty good family.
Oh, dude, yeah, my family rocks. I wish I'd recognised this in my first life, you know?
Yeah, you talk about first life and second life a fair bit, yeah. So
absolutely.
Alison and Eli, did you know each other before the crash?
No. So I only met Eli 2013. So it was nearly 10 years after the crash that we met. And so he was pretty, probably, he was living alone in a place that his mum had managed to organise for him, but with a fair bit of support from mum and a favourite auntie and another family. And so when I met Eli, the first thing that I learned about him was about his disability, because that's definitely a thing you've got to get your head around.
It's pretty obvious when you walk in the door.
Yeah. I mean, apart from the incredible good looks, number two, tell me about yourself.
Okay, so anybody tuning in to this as a podcast, you now have to go to the YouTube channel and make sure you check this out as well, and see if Alison's lying, see if Eli actually is a good looking rooster. Make sure you go and check it out on the YouTube channel. So you met like a good 10 years after, and fell in love with his good looks, and so are you a much of a support for Eli now?
So obviously at first, when we first met, we weren't living together, but probably about a year later, we started living together. And I guess that first 12 months of knowing Eli and seeing all the things that his mum did for him, it was new to me, because I'd never lived with somebody with such a significant disability before. And so I think from Eli's mum's perspective, when I moved in, she was kind of a bit off the hook. Like, she didn't have to come and do his laundry anymore, didn't have to cook so much anymore. But there's lots that Eli can do, but because of the effort that it takes for him to get around, and with the brain injury, the cognitive fatigue that happens, he doesn't have the stamina to cook a whole meal, for example, to be on his feet for that long and to concentrate on a recipe for that long. So there's little things. I mean, he's 6'7", so I can get him to reach things that are really high up. That's very handy. And he's not terrified of spiders, so he's pretty good for getting rid of those.
Yeah, Ali's actually sitting about 3 feet in front of me at the moment. So that's certain reasons we look at the same perspective.
Yeah, no, this is not a good representation of the height difference. But yeah, it really did. It was an eye opener for me. But obviously you adapt pretty quickly. And then in terms of driving, I had a car that I was driving at the time that was a manual, so there was no possibility of Eli being able to drive that. He had a car that had died.
He was having a rest.
And was sort of a bit of a spider nest sitting in the garage for a while. And then when we bought a car that was suitable for our family, we had to get it modified, obviously, and then that meant me sitting in the passenger seat for the first time with him driving.
And how did you find that?
It was.
Oh yeah.
Put it this way, it was just me and him, not my daughter in the car.
Okay.
So, yeah, but he's actually the safest driver I know. Like there's, I think because of the fatigue and the need to kind of concentrate, like he doesn't have a second nature where he can just rely on that to drive. Like lots of us might just go into autopilot in the car. So he has to be constantly on, 100% on, and that means he's really 100% aware of what's going on the road, of the road rules, of not tailgating people, all that sort of stuff. He's really, I feel very safe with him in the car, but that doesn't, like he can't drive for long distances because of the fatigue.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
Interesting the thing you mentioned about being on. That's something which I think is common in this space. Yep. Where the energy that people are exerting when driving is a lot more than, I guess, if you had, as you said, if it was second nature. So it's something actually important to highlight, really, because if you're also using controls, all of these different things, you're constantly, I guess, processing in your mind what needs to happen next, rather than just automatically coming up. So yeah, that's something good to be aware of. And I guess to segue on that, when the current car that you guys have, how long have you guys had that for?
We got that in 2017, so 4 years.
So 4 years. And modifying that, so that's 4 years. Are you guys now on NDIS, and modifying that was the process through NDIS, and was it any different?
I can't remember. I mean, I am on the NDIS, so I don't know that much. I can't remember whether the modification was through them.
No, the modification that we got to our car was actually before Eli was an NDIS participant, because NDIS wasn't available where we were living at the time. And because...
It would have been right on that cusp time when it was changing over, I reckon, about 4 years ago.
Yeah, so because of the volunteering that Eli was doing as a peer mentor at Hampstead Rehabilitation Centre, one of the organisations called the, what are they called?
This is why I love her. I've got no idea.
It's totally slipped my mind. There was an organisation that does some funding for public health patients, and they were supporting the volunteering program that Eli was doing. And the Costa Foundation, that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
That sounds so ungrateful. Yeah. But the social worker at Hampstead organised through Da Costa Foundation to actually fund the modification that we needed for the car.
Yeah.
That's so it means that the accelerator pedal that I use has to be able to fold up, so he's got somewhere to rest his right foot. When he's driving, the left one folds down, and when I'm driving, the left one folds up and the right one folds down.
Yeah, thank you very much for explaining that, because that is a question that we get quite often. And Ali, you would get that question as well, is how does somebody else drive the car? Does it mean that this is only my car and nobody else can drive it? So that really explains it really well. So the car can be driven between people's disabilities or non-disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just means he puts the mirrors and the seat in a completely wrong place.
Yeah, well, it might be nothing to do with the disability, that one.
No.
Hey, and have you got any other bells and whistles to your car then?
No.
So there's in the background of Ali's picture, if you are tuning into this on YouTube, is something with a couple of wheels there. It's called a chariot. Can you tell us what the chariot does?
Me or
anyone? Yeah, go for it. You've just had one of these installed to your car, yeah?
I have. I have.
What does it do to explain it to people?
It carries a wheelchair.
Carries the wheelchair. Yep.
Yeah.
What kind of wheelchair do you have?
I've got an electric wheelchair, a wicked blue one.
It's got off-road wheels, and it's got a stubby holder and a phone charger.
It's got
and what it does is that it's basically a little trailer, isn't it? And you drive your wheelchair onto the little platform.
Drive a wheelchair onto the platform.
Lifts it up.
Strap it down. Then it lifts it at driving level. And I get in the car and drive around, whatever. And it's got when I don't have a wheelchair on it, the grate folds up, so it's covering the back window. So I've actually got a camera on my
reversing camera,
rear vision mirror.
Yep.
So it looks really cool actually. When you click it into reverse, it pops up as the camera.
Yep.
Because
cool. Is the camera on the chariot?
Pardon? The camera's on the chariot. Yeah.
Cool.
Down at the number plate level. Yeah.
Should offer that as an upgrade.
Yeah. That's a good idea. So look, that's another. So you can't walk the longer distances, and that was the design of that chariot, is to help you get your wheelchair around to explore the world when you need to go longer distances.
Absolutely.
And what about getting from the chariot to the car? Do you just sort of hold on to the?
I'm fine to walk around that distance, but things like we've just moved into a new house and the area is all hilly, and we've got a 9-month-old golden retriever who we're actually, the noise you may be able to hear is a fence is being installed, and so when they're up, Leo is going to come and live with us, and I look forward to being able to take him in the neighbourhood and take him for walks and things like that. But obviously, I can't do that with my walking shoes. So we could just fly around the neighbourhood in my chair with him on the lead.
That sounds pretty good.
Awesome. Hey, there's one more thing that we need to explore, Eli, and that's what you're doing now post crash. What is your role now post crash?
My role is I've basically created it myself. I'm lucky to have been offered the opportunity to work with the South Australian Metropolitan Fire Service for the last 14 years as a crash survivor speaker in the Road Awareness Program, or RAP, run by SMFS. And we speak to about 98% of Year 11s in South Australia every year. And because Year 11s, when they're all around the age of getting a licence. And so that's our target audience. And I've been speaking, like I said, for about 14 years. So,
that?
Pardon?
Do you enjoy that part?
It's huge. That's what I call that's why I'm here, It's,
your calling?
I'm trying to turn my personal negative into something that may be positive for other people.
And some people might know that I'm a board member of the Get Home Safe Foundation, but you're also an ambassador for the Get Home Safe Foundation as well. I
am. I don't know whether it's that I'm an ambassador for the foundation, which I am. Word of mouth. I'm right up at. But once a year they have a Get Home Safe Foundation, Get Home Safe round of cricket.
Glenelg Cricket Club.
Glenelg Cricket Club, and I go and speak to the club members and players, and I've done it 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
I can really, I love that cricket club. I'm really sort of welcomed and nurtured and appreciated, and it's a really good feel. Darren Davis, who's the CEO of Get Home Safe, has organised it. I've worked, so yeah, I've been involved with him a fair bit over the last 10 years. He's a great man, as are all GHC Foundation ambassadors.
I totally agree.
You couldn't find somebody more passionate about road safety than Darren, though. Like he just
100%.
has unbelievable amount of energy to work on that cause.
Well, we're actually hoping to get him onto this podcast as well. So if you're tuning into this one, hopefully in the future we'll get Darren on as well and really have a chat to him about road safety and what people can be doing, whether they've got a disability or not.
He's who you want to talk to. Just give him a green light and then sit back. He'll take it.
He'll talk.
Sounds good. Sounds exciting.
He will. We'll have a coffee, Ali, and sit back and let him talk. Now, what from your RAP program with the Metro Fire Department or the ambassador stuff that you do for the Get Home Safe Foundation, what is your take-home message? What is the main thing that you would want to say to people listening to this podcast?
The main thing, I'm really sorry about this noise.
That's all right. We'll put up with it. It makes it real.
You can't actually hear it that much anyway.
All right, cool. I guess I'm going to use the RAP's basic motto is that anybody can choose to take risks, yeah, but nobody gets to choose the consequences for those risks. I didn't get that, you know. I definitely understand that now.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have chosen this risk. Oh, this consequences, not a million years.
Yeah. You choose to take a risk, but you don't get to choose the consequences. I think that's a excellent message to finish on for our listeners. We've got one more question that we ask to all of our interviewees that come on. We know that cars are used for more than getting from A to B. You've touched on it. You were using it to get to Phillip Island and bits and pieces like that to travel. But is there one more story that you can share about what a car means to you? What's something that something unique, something interesting about a car story from your point of view?
A bit tentative to mention any of this in front of my wife.
I'll blow my ears.
But yeah, we met through an online dating service. I stalked her, and so yeah, throughout the period I was living by myself, it was actually really good to have the freedom to get around and get out and meet people, go to restaurants and pubs and clubs and things like that. You know, it was a really good way to introduce myself back into society.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I would have just suffered more and more depression had I not been able to get out and get involved with life. It was basically a catalyst for the person I'm now.
That's awesome. Yeah, you touched on that word freedom, and I think social isolation comes a lot stronger if you don't have that ability to leave the house and go where you need to go when you want to go, and a car has a massive part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing.
When I was living at my parents' house, I basically relied on the 75% handicap vouchers for taxis. And I had quite a few taxi drivers who worked around my parents' area, had them on speed dial, had the numbers in my phone. And so, yeah, I'd just taxi everywhere until I got my license and car. And then I was sort of, set free.
Yeah.
more freedom, more independence. I mean, I love that. I personally, it's a huge thing for me. Something which I always tell people, which was said to me, which stuck with me when I was younger, was if you have the choice to get a house or a car, get a car, because a car gives you freedom. The house means you get stuck, but most people will think to buy a house, so.
Yeah.
And that's something which I really...
That's what I've been trying to say to you for a while.
Yeah, he wants to buy a ridiculously expensive car, and I do like having a roof over my head.
maybe when you're older,
with a dog fence. All right, thanks very much.
I think we're going to wrap it up for this episode then.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Really appreciate it.
All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for joining us and listening in. And a huge thank you to Eli and Ali for joining us on this episode and taking us through your life-changing story. That was awesome. And if you want to get in contact with Eli, what is the best way they can do that, guys?
I have to rely on good old Facebook, man. Eli Murn is my surname. Well, is my name. Just look me up. Don't Google me. Can be surprises.
Just
so Eli Murn. We'll put the links up in the notes below, and the notes on YouTube below as well, and the show notes on all the other platforms. So yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. There's a bunch of take-home messages out of this episode, and what we do is we reflect on this in the next episode. So there was lots to learn, there was lots to take home, and tune into the next episode where we break this down and discuss the talking points from this episode. Eli, Alison, thanks very much for joining us, and as we always say in every episode, if you've got any queries about how you can get back to driving, what will work best for you, get in contact with your local OT or mobility dealer and set yourself up with a trial. Trials really do put you into the driver's seat. And we'll see you in the next episode.
See you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Drive Able podcast with Brad Williams and Ali Akbarian. If you like what you've heard, make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. It really does make a massive difference. If you or anyone you know would like to share a story about driving with a disability, or you would like to get in contact, find the show notes, or find the resources mentioned in this episode, you can find us on Facebook. Just search @Drive Able Podcast for more information.